Hello there, folks. On a comment, oh look, Ziggy's here. Hi, Ziggy. On a comment to a recent video, someone pointed out the URL of a conversation between Leonard Cohen, the singer-songwriter and Zen practitioner, and Ramesh Balsekar. Ramesh Balsekar was a student of Nisargadatta Maharaj, who wrote the book I Am That, which I talked about in my previous video. So it was a real interesting interview. I'd heard from someone that this conversation had taken place. I think I heard it from my friend Gento, but I didn't know it was published anywhere, or that parts of it were published. So there was a few bits that stood out, and I'd like to talk about one of them. This is Ramesh Balsekar talking about. It's kind of a funny way he gets into this. He's talking about that Ramana Maharshi, who's another Advaita Vedanta teacher, had his own version of the Bhagavad Gita in which he'd cut it down to what he thought were the most essential lines of it. But somehow during this subject, what are you barking at? But somehow, when he's talking about this subject in a roundabout way, he gets to this. And one of the verses that he kept from the Bhagavad Gita, this is Ramesh Balsekar tried to do the same as Ramana Maharshi and make his own Bhagavad Gita with only the essential bits. The Bhagavad Gita is a big Hindu scripture. Out of thousands of people, there is one seeker. Out of many seekers, there is only one who knows me in principle. And Ramesh comments on this saying, you see, so many seekers who don't reach this ultimate end obviously have to be following paths which are not supposed to lead them to the end, during the process of that body-mind organism anyway. So the misconception, what is the best path? Which is the best spiritual path? There is no best spiritual path. There is only a particular spiritual path for you, or for this particular body-mind organism, at that moment of its development. So the source, which is written with a capital S, will send this body-mind organism to that guru who is appropriate for him or her at the time. All the body-mind organism can do is follow that guru to whom he or she has been sent. Now I find that very interesting, and it's something I haven't thought about it in exactly those terms, because I usually don't think of things in terms of gurus, for example. But I think it is important to follow, in the terms Ramesh Balsekar says, follow the guru or follow the path. And what does he say? Follow that guru to whom he or she has been sent. That, I think, is important because there is a... this is going to sound weird and spooky or whatever maybe to some of you, but there is a kind of a process going on here in this universe of ours, which is beyond our ability to rationally figure it out. No matter how smart you are or how enlightened you are, you're just not going to figure it out. And things happen the way they happen, and sometimes you're kind of guided to a particular path. And I feel in my case, it's been kind of almost stupidly obvious. I was in Kent, Ohio in the early 80s, and I ran across this guy, Tim McCarthy, who was a Zen teacher. And really, Kent, Ohio in the early 80s, that's about all I was going to run into. So it wasn't even a question for me of finding the best spiritual path. I mean, I did really think about trying to find the best spiritual path, but this was the only avenue available to me at the time, and it happened to be the best one. And this was kind of obvious at the time, even though I sort of resisted it. So there was a period where if when I had been, 18, 19, 20 years old, whenever I met Tim, I don't remember what year it was, if the internet had been available at the time, and I could have easily searched through the many spiritual teachers and paths out there, and felt like I had a wide choice, a big variety, a kind of nice, the candy counter at the Walgreens drugstore sort of version of spirituality with, whatchamacallits and Reese's Pieces and Milky Way bars and, Snickers and whatever else there. I would have probably been like, oh, what about this one? What about this one? And then tried to, pick out the best one. But I happened to extend the metaphor to ridiculous proportions, I happened to be at a Walgreens where they only had Snickers. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess Snickers is... Well, they had Snickers and then some really, really yucky stuff that was obviously not good at all, So I went for the Snickers. And it's lucky that I did, and I think that's important. Now, for somebody getting into this stuff today, it's hard, it might be even harder than it was for me because you've got so much choice. I mean, you've got me on YouTube talking to you, and I might be the best teacher for you. I don't know. I might not be. I might be the worst, and this is what gets me when people sometimes write to me and are like, well, I've got to go study with you, I've got to move to where you are and follow your and I think, well, you maybe, but probably not, and I don't want to encourage that sort of thing, because I think maybe the teacher that you find more the teacher for you might be somebody else, and it might not be me. So I look at that and I think, well, I was lucky enough not to have much choice, but when I was studying with Tim, I was, looking around for somebody else. And when I was studying with Nishijima Roshi, I was looking around for somebody else. And it took a long time. It took maybe even until this very moment, that I realized, oh no, that was the teacher for me. That was the guru to whom I have been sent. That was the way that I was supposed to follow. And what forces made that happen, I don't want to speculate. You can do that. You can say, well, karma causes certain beings to be born in the same time and place together so that they can continue practicing together. And there's a lot of that if you kind of look at the literature out there. But I don't know. That could be true. Sometimes I think that's true, if I want to be honest with you. But other times I think, well, whether it's true or not, this is the way it is. All I know is that the universe that I see and feel and experience around me doesn't work the way the ordinary, normal people think it does. And it works it operates in a different way. And choice is probably largely a kind of illusion. Now, one other thing that struck me in this interview, and both of these are in part 2 of the interview, so I'll leave a link to, well, I might be able to leave a link to both parts, but if I don't, if I'm unable to, then you'll find the link to part 2 of the interview with Leonard Cohen and Ramesh Balsekar at the end of part 1. He's talking about Ramana Maharshi, and Ramana Maharshi is an Advaita Vedanta teacher who is famous for his advice that what you should do is constantly question, who am I? And Ramesh Balsekar, who spoke English, says this: Ramana Maharshi used the words who am I because in English there is a marvelous distinction between I and me. But in the Tamil language and most other languages, I am told, this distinction is not there. So when Ramana Maharshi said, find out who am I, he really meant, who is this me I'm so concerned about? That's an interesting thing, because we do make that distinction in English. And maybe who am I should be who is me. And I've known the Ramana Maharshi stuff since probably around the time that I started doing Zazen. So this has always been sort of part of my Zazen. And as I said in a previous video, it reminds me of Dogen's admonition to turn the light around and shine it inwards. To me, that's the same thing as asking, who is this me that I'm so concerned about? And I think if we keep constantly questioning that, asking who is this me that I am concerned about, we will find that the me kind of dissolves. It may dissolve dramatically for you, or it may dissolve sort of slowly and become kind of like, oh, what is this thing I'm worried about? So those are the two parts of the interview that struck me the most, but I think it's overall a really worthwhile thing to take a look at, so I'll leave the link so you can read the whole thing for yourself. So that's my message for the day. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it and you want to see more, you can send a donation to me via this link that's below on the screen there, or I will leave the links on the YouTube channel if you want to go directly to my Patreon page or my PayPal page where you can contribute. I know things are tough for some people, so please don't contribute if you are having a tough time. But those of you who are contributing, I really, really super thank you, and I love you all because you're the ones who've kept things going for me for all these years, and it's been really, really wonderful to receive your support and to be able to do what I do because of your support. So thanks a lot. Have a good time all the time. See you later. Bye.